It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse here with me. I am Michael Rand. Patrick, there was a lot to watch over the weekend. There's going to be plenty to see today. Timberwolves Media Day, baby. Here we go. Going to watch, talk to the lads today, see how that all's going.
Well, the owners' press conference is going to be a lot more interesting than the players' press conference. That's for sure. The A-Rod and Laurie, or whatever is how he ever pronounces his name, are supposed to be there, and Glenn Taylor too. So that'll be interesting to say the least. Yeah, and we'll get to meet Mr. Gupta. I wonder if he'll bring the knife he used to stab Rosas in the back. Although I read in Chris Hines' story Sunday that they had made peace. They decided how they were going to work together right before Gerson got fired. Yeah, okay, good enough. I guess they decided how they're going to work together by getting one of them fired. So
they're going to work together by not working together.
But you're going to get a lot more expertise on that as the week goes. We leap into the Gophers. I was up at St. John's. Very good game, Bethel and St. John's. The best the MIC has to offer now that we don't have Johnnies and Tommies anymore. And it was a good game, but you kept looking at the Gophers and seeing what was going on. I wasn't watching it. There were some other guys down in the press box there were watching it on their iPads and stuff. And you kept looking, and they weren't doing anything offensively, and you couldn't figure out what the heck was going on and how this was possible. And then both of their last two possessions an immediate interception, or what?
Pretty quick, yeah.
The second one, the last one was an interception right off the bat, right?
Yeah, and the last one was kind of desperation because they only had about 30 seconds left, but. The one before that, he looked like he was hit Tanner Morgan was hit as he threw, but he basically just floated it up and the safety just went, and it was a pretty easy pick.
This offensive line that we loved after they mashed poor Colorado and the lowest yardage total by a FBS team in 7 years or 5 years?
Something like that.
Some unbelievable thing. And then, but we found out they couldn't block a blitz. Huh? They can run block, but apparently this little Bowling Green outfit they sent pressure anytime they could, and they couldn't. The Gophers didn't block it worth a dang. I guess so. That's what the report was that I received.
Yeah,
Oregon was under pressure against this team, although they don't try to pass either, but they throw 13 passes. So
yeah,
I don't know what the deal. What happened? I mean, Ockman Bell got hurt right away, but and did I read that Wright that there was some kind of a blow up with Wright? He stayed on the sidelines, or what was going? There was something going on there too. So
yeah, they were just discombobulated from the start, and I watched the second half. I was at youth soccer. Again, that's a Saturday thing I've got going. But I was like, it's Bowling Green. Like, this just felt like a layup, right? And
yes,
there were 30.5-point favorites, Patrick. It's like one of the biggest upsets in college football history if you just look at point spread. So I get home, it's 7-3. They're down 7-3 at halftime. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? They get a touchdown, so they're up 10-7. And you're like, okay, they had a poor half, but it's probably going to roll. The final score is probably going to be something like 31-7 or something. And everyone's going to forget about how bad it was. And then it just keeps getting worse. PJ Fleck, that might have been the worst game. I hope that's the worst game he's ever coached, because I can't imagine what would be worse. Going for it on 4th and 1 from your own 29 against an underdog in the first half when you're up 3-0, just that's a head scratcher. The fourth quarter, they had no urgency at all when they're behind. The game plan, the special teams was terrible. They missed a field goal. They tried a long field goal that didn't work, and that was a weird decision. They punt. Everything about the special teams was bad, and everything about the offense was bad. It was a very puzzling performance. PJ says he takes some of the blame, but it was a weird game to watch because it felt like they just weren't even really there.
I just mentioned this before we started talking here too. 2019, a really good year.
Yeah.
They should have been beat by Georgia Southern here, although Georgia Southern way better than Bowling Green.
Yeah,
but should have been beat by Georgia Southern, and they had a really hard time with South Dakota State. If South Dakota State's new rookie first-year quarterback threw a terrible interception in the fourth quarter, or South Dakota State could have won that game. If South Dakota State would have been here with the quarterback they had the year before, they would have kicked the hell out of them. But and then the Miami of Ohio game, they were terrible, and I had a hard time winning that game. Doesn't he spend any energy getting his team ready to play these non-conference layups that he's supposed to be having? I don't get it. They've been terrible. You know what I heard he did after the Miami of Ohio game? Have you seen this?
No.
They beat Miami of Ohio 31-26, and he crowd surfed in the locker room after they beat Miami.
Not Colorado, Miami of Ohio. We're sure.
Not Colorado, Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio, the 31-26 win.
31-26 win. I heard that. I heard that, obviously. I heard that. If he crowd surfed after that game, he's a bigger putz than I thought he was. You got to go in there and remember when Jerry Kill beat Kent State 10-7, and he came in and he was feeling sorry for himself, and he said, "Maybe I'm a terrible," because everybody asked him these questions about how the hell could you only beat this team 10-7? Maybe I'm a terrible coach, and he got all remember that whole thing.
Yeah,
because he was a very sensitive guy. But when you play like that and are lucky to beat Miami of Ohio, you can't come in and say, "I saw courage out there," blah blah blah, and crowd surf with your players. You got to go in and chew them out. And of course, they bounced back. They beat Colorado 30-0, so we don't think anything of it. But this is one of the 5 worst losses in history of the. They've had terrible losses when bad things happened in the fourth quarter. Mace had 10 of those. But
yes.
as far as losing to an opponent, this is the only one that's comparable is South Dakota beating Brewster. Right?
Yeah, I agree. This was as bad as I can remember, especially coming off that 30-point win. And by the way, I got some questions about Colorado now at this point. How did this team beat Colorado 30-0? Again, it's a different Saturday. They look completely different for the 12 people that got to watch the Gophers last weekend. But it's a mystery. You're right though. This is a pattern. They'd kept winning those games. Maybe that was masking some of the problem. And I think they kept flashing the stat on Saturday that the Gophers had the longest non-conference winning streak in FBS before that game. I think it was like 20 or 21 games. They hadn't lost to a non-conference team in that long. So they've been winning and getting away with it through, various coaches, even when they don't play perfectly well and some of that scheduling. But I don't know what happened Saturday because Bowling Green is so young. They hadn't beaten Bowling Green hadn't beaten an FBS team since 2019. I think they
might be further back than that. I don't know.
It was like remember. 10 games in a row, but it was something else, man. It was.
Yeah, it's now that said, you're going to Purdue, and Purdue is not good and beat to hell. They like their best skill position players are hurt. They had to pull their quarterback, Jake Plummer's son, because he's apparently not very good, and they put in some, game manager type. They can win down there. And then, of course, then we're going to hear everybody say they might. I guess I saw Purdue open at 2.5. I bet the money ends up going to the Gophers, but the Gophers have a better team than Purdue. Whether they can recover from this pathetic performance, to me, the thing that most shocking about that game is the offensive line just didn't come out there, kick the living hell out of them, and because I really thought that was the strength of the team, and what Bowling Green ended up making 180 yards or something like that.
Defense was fine. The Bowling Green even turned it over a couple times. They were like 2 of 13 on third down. It was like it's not the recipe for an upset.
Well, apparently they got off the hook when Potts dropped a punt and they didn't fall on it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that was something else too. Yeah.
They got breaks.
They did get breaks. Yes.
lost to Bowling Green getting breaks.
Yeah.
And he is traditional. It's all on me. But this time, just from reading the quotes, Fleck, he almost mentioned a couple of things that were on him. Usually it's all on me, which means you avoid talking about specific moments in the game, right? But there were a couple of. I love those guys who always say it's all on me, but then if you ask them about a specific, they defend themselves.
Right.
Well,
I tried to do this there.
Yeah. I mean, I do it. I saw Bielema quote down there, and by the way, that hadn't lasted long. They beat Nebraska opener, and they lost 4 in a row. But he punted from the other team's 36 with 3 minutes to go or something. And it was, I do that 100 out of 100 times, pin them deep. And that, so I mean, they can say it's all on me, but boy, when you try to pin them down on, okay, where did you screw up? They always defend themselves, especially college coaches. Even more than pro coach.
We probably need to talk about some happier things. We do tend to, we are newspaper guys at heart, Patrick, so we tend to go with the stories, the way if it bleeds, it leads kind of theory with the Gophers. But I got
a column I wrote when Barrero left, and we were having left, and we were looking for another columnist, and we were having a really good time in sports right then. Everybody was winning, and I wrote a column saying nobody wants this job. There's too much good stuff. Nobody wants this sports column job. There's too much good stuff going on. We want the other side. Come on. Anyway, go ahead.
We've got plenty of that here, week to week, day to day. Last week, my goodness, was very newsy, especially for a late September. But Vikings, we should talk Vikings. We've given them plenty of grief the last 2 weeks for the way they've lost, and frankly looked for a quarter like they were headed for another one of those games. They were down 17-7 against Seattle. They had a really nice opening drive to get back to 7-7, but then they had a couple 3 and outs. Seattle looked like they were just going to move the ball at will. Next thing you know, Seattle doesn't score another point, and Kirk Cousins play about as well as I can remember him playing for the Vikings. It looked like 2018 Kirk Cousins when he first got here. He just had a certain different aggressiveness to him. He was making throws all over the place. He was, he looked like a more active quarterback. And that quarterback, I hadn't seen a lot since then. And I saw that in Sunday's game. They beat the Seahawks 30-17. Pretty complete team effort. That's kind of their blueprint for if they're going to win this year. That's how they're going to do it. And at least for one game, it looked like it was something they could do, more often this year. What did you come away thinking from that game?
I came away 2 things, that this is this offensive line is certainly playing a lot better than we were giving them credit for a couple of weeks ago. When Dalvin Cook doesn't play, the other guy's fine, Madison, and Cousins looked great. But my other big takeaway is the Seattle defense is horrible.
Yes, there's that.
Don't cover anybody. He did a nice job of giving himself a little time, looking around the field. But every time he looked, there was somebody running wide open there,
especially over the middle. There was guys
this conservative. Are they playing the Tampa 2 or something? I mean, it looked like the middle of the field was just wide open. The Seahawks for years got heat about spending all their money on defense. Well, to make Russell happy, they spend some of their money on offense and their defenses. They got Jamal Adams, and they've got poor old Bobby Wagner, who's my age, and they have nobody else on that defense. So I think they beat a 6-11 team. That's what I think.
Yeah, they didn't look good.
But they look great. I mean, the Vikings really offensive. Once they got rolling, they looked really good, and the defense was pretty good too. They kept Russell, a lot of heat on Russell later on, And I think we also found out that they're going to be better in their dome when there's people there screaming than last year when didn't they go 3-5 in there or 4-4?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
they were bad in there last year. So
yeah, all those things make a difference. It was funny too. Our mutual friend Tom Linneman. I went to the Twins game with him on the Friday night because he was in town. Maybe you saw him Saturday at Johnny's Bethel.
Yeah, I talked to him for a while.
But we were talking about the Vikings game before that. Obviously, it hadn't happened yet. And I said, I think the Vikings are going to win Sunday. And he's like, Mike, no. And I'm like, I think I really do. I don't think Seattle's that good. And this was even before Cook was out. I said, it's just the NFL. This is kind of what happens. Like you get down on a team and then they have a really good performance. He's like, how much you want to bet? And I said, I don't want to bet on the Vikings. Like nobody should ever bet on the Vikings. Just because they're so unpredictable. He said $50,000. Why don't you go to Wells Fargo right now? $50,000. I'm like, no. Maybe I should. I probably should have, but I shouldn't have. But you know what I mean? Like nobody knows what to expect.
Yeah, and you had my endorsement of your theory because
I did.
Last Monday I told you they were going to win. So I just don't think Seattle's good, and the Vikings have very good personnel. And as long as nobody gets the COVID before a game, and they don't have to shut down 6 players or some damn thing, they have talent. And it is funny. The other thing that's happened in the I watched some of the Bears yesterday.
Oh boy, yeah.
Now I know why Andy Dalton was playing. He's terrible.
Yeah, Justin Fields not ready for prime time, is he?
Not ready. And the Lions. They had a chance to win a game, but they could screw up a 1-car parade. And they're 0-3 like they're supposed to be. And so, I think, and the Packers are pulled out a miracle win, but they're all beat up. They got all kinds of injuries, and when their injuries are more important than Dalvin Cook is, because they don't have, they're playing. They had 2 rookies starting on an offensive line yesterday, and they don't have any. They only have one of their 5 offensive linemen right now. So they pulled that one out, but it's just the Vikings. The only team that can contend with them is the Packers. I think they're. And after seeing them yesterday, I think they're an 11-6 team.
Really, still, even with the 2 early losses, yeah.
Yeah, and they were bad, but you look at maybe 10-7, but they're a playoff team if they don't get health problems and everybody stays reasonably healthy. They're pretty healthy right now, and the offensive line is. Everybody's in a panic at all times every time somebody gets a sack or puts a little pressure on him. But the offensive line is playing better.
Yeah, it's two games in a row for the offensive line.
The thing is, they played good at Arizona.
They did.
They've played 2 good games. As I said on Twitter this morning or last night, the Packers are 2-1 because they pay a kicker, and the Vikings are 1-2 because they don't pay a kicker. Now, the guy made them yesterday. They weren't really clutch kicks, but they still lost the game because every year they have a different place kicker. Mm-hmm. and you know what? I heard Rodgers' post-game interview.
Yeah,
he and Mason Crosby have been teammates for 15 years.
Yes. The Packers have had like 3 kickers in the last 30 years.
Yes, right. I mean, and they went there. Remember that one about 8 years ago? He
had a terrible year. Yeah.
There's no way Zim would have hung with him. There's no way Zim would have. Even if the guy was the best kicker in the world, Zim would have had him out of here in week 7 or something like that. And the Packers just, he takes a reasonable amount of money and they keep running him out there. And when it's a 51-yarder, there's an 80% chance he's going to make it. So,
yep. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. It's continuity. There's, I've talked to Ryan Longwell about that. His stress, just, how much they value continuity with the kicking game there. And he was there for 9 years. And then Crosby's been there. 15, 16, something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But the Vikings. And Joseph was fine. Zimmer went out of his way to mention Joseph in the post game too. I enjoyed that.
Well, he's trying to be confident. Yeah, he is. And,
right.
And maybe the guy had his blip and out of the way, and he'll be okay. But I do get a kick out of everybody says, "Oh, their kicking problems go back to Gary Anderson." Well, he missed one.
He missed one all year.
One. He missed one.
And it wasn't even that bad of a kick. It just kind of
he missed it by a foot. He missed it by a foot. Paul Allen would have been screaming mightily about how good that one was. I don't know. Was he doing the games then? I don't know.
He wasn't doing that. He wasn't doing the games way back then. That was 98, right? So I guess long story short.
I'm happy for Paul because it's not more important to anybody in Minnesota than Paul to have the team that he objectively announces about win. So
yeah, well, he was doing it in 2003 with the Nate Poole call, so maybe it wasn't that far fetched that it would have been 98, but I don't think he was doing it way back then. So they've got 2 more home games now. Cleveland will be
a tough game. Cleveland's good.
Cleveland's good. Then it's Detroit. Detroit. Did you see how Detroit lost? 66-yard field goal.
Yes. I don't know how they got into that situation where I watched some of that game and then I gave up on them. But the plucky Lions, 0-3. It's unbelievable. How could you possibly be a fan of that team? How could
I don't know.
I mean, it's like being a fan of Vanderbilt football.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt get beat 66-0, and you say, go Commodores. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's impossible. They last won anything. They've won what? 2 playoff games since 1957, something like that.
Right here, I'd like to declare, if you're a Lions fan, I give you permission. You don't need my permission, but I give you permission. Just pick a new team. Like, it's hard. Yes. It's hard. Like, I know if you have roots, if you grew up watching a team, and even Vikings fans say, like, I wish I could just quit this team, pick another team. Like, the Vikings have had heartbreak. They've had so much more success. Like, they've seen so many more wins than these poor Lions fans.
Mike Tice and Brad Childress versus the Detroit Lions, 16-1.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
16 and Ticey never lost to him. Chili lost to him once.
That is amazing.
Yes. How about our Lynx?
Yeah, that was straight. I was, the format is weird. It's one game, even between 2 pretty good teams. I kind of like it. I kind of dig. It's almost like the Major League Baseball wild card. You kind of put all the emphasis on one game. Maybe if this is a 5-game series, they rally, but they lose 89-76, and Chicago had scored 200 points in their 2 regular season games against the Lynx, and they had split. So even though the records were quite a bit different, I was like, well, this doesn't look like the greatest matchup. And apparently Collier didn't have a great game at all. That was kind of the focus of the game story that Kent wrote. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Jim Suhan's column, he let her have it pretty good. But Collier, I think one thing in there though, when I first became suspicious of her was when they didn't play her at the Olympics. She was over there and, most games she was getting 3-4 minutes. Now it could be because they got the same old crusty collection of players that won the gold medals for them, but they weren't playing her a lot of minutes. And I was just looking at those box scores saying, I wonder what the hell the deal is. I thought she was supposed to be this young phenom. And then Cheryl let her have it once, like when they came back from the Olympic break, about one of those UConn games. And when they lost, I mean, not UConn, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Let her have it. I remember reading that she let her have it one game that they lost that they did. But what they lose, when they got back from the Olympic break, they didn't lose more than 3 games, did they? They lost the 2 to Connecticut. And I don't know if they lost another. They started off 0-4 and they ended up 21-11. So they won 21 out of 28. So they had Powell back, who, I gotta say, I saw him once the season opener in person, and I thought Powell was great. And then she was hurt a long time and didn't go. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. I think they went to this format so they could then the semifinals would be 3 out of 5 instead of 2 or something. Yep. They wanted to keep they wanted to keep it in the same time frame, I think. So, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense. That should at least be a 2 out of 3. But can't use that as a, you can. I mean, that's what it's when they did win their one playoff game. It was a one
last year. Yeah.
Or so. I mean, when you can't whine about it.
No.
But the Maya Moore was here 8 years. They won 40 playoff games. She's been gone for 4. They've won 1, or gone for 3. They've won 1, and before she got here, they won 1. So for their history, she's here 8 out of the years, and they won 40 playoff games. And when she hasn't been here, they won 2. I'd say she's important.
I'd say she's important too. I mean, they've done. We've documented this. I mean, they've done a nice job of sustaining relevance since she left, right? I mean, they made the playoffs every year since then still, and kind of pivoted to this new era, with Collier and still with Fowles. And by the way, Dangerfield had kind of a weird year this year after being rookie of the year, and I think they were bracing for that a little bit too. But 22-10 this season. So what 22-6 after that 0-4 start.
6, wow, yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, one game is one game. Collier 3 of 11 for 8 points. That's
but how many good? She was not. Let's face it, she was not nearly as good this year as she was as a rookie. For some whatever. She had much more inconsistent, and I'm not an expert on them, but just looking box scores and seeing that she didn't play in the Olympics, and having Cheryl go frontal on her that one game kind of indicated to me that something was going on with her that they couldn't figure out. And that's, I guess, to put it all on her. The other thing's got to concern them is Sylvia's getting a lot of wear and tear on Sylvia. So now is Sylvia going to go over and play somewhere in Europe or Asia or something?
I don't know. I don't know that she does that anymore. We'll see.
That's the other thing with these. I mean, it's an 11-month season.
It's got to be a grind.
Brutal. It's brutal. So, it's just really weird. It's a summer league. People get mad that when we say they haven't won a championship since such and such, referring to the 4 major sports, that we don't throw the links in. Well, it's God love them. It's a 12-team league, and they play 34 to 38 games, and then they have to go to Europe to make money here, so Asia or someplace. So it's not an equivalent. They're doing the best. They're winning the best they can win, but it's not. You can't compare it with NFL, NBA, NHL, and baseball. You can't. Those. I mean, it's not a full season. It's not it just doesn't equate as that gets you in trouble once in a while, but it does not equate. It's a summer league. It's kind of like the Lakers championships, Mike.
Yeah.
We look back on the dynasty. The last time they won in 54, it was an 8-team league.
Yeah. Yeah, that's different.
Now it's 30. It's a little hard to win when it's 30.
Just ask the Timberwolves. It is a little harder.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should mention Twins really quick before we get out of here. What?
By the way, I think we secured last. We're 1.5 in the center. That was a tough loss yesterday because Kansas City won. I don't know if we can get and he's your 4th place in the AL Central. I don't know if we could do that.
You got to go 4-2 now to avoid being a 90 loss season also. And they looked like they were playing good. They took the first 2 from Toronto. And even though that ends up being a split series when Toronto wins the next 2, they still, Patrick, this is our final thought, still find a way to help the Yankees, even in a non-playoff year in the playoffs.
Yankees. Yeah. How about the Yankees beating Boston 3 in a row?
Yeah.
So, but I think the Blue Jays were kind of hoping for Boston to win one of those games, because now they they wanted. They got the Yankees, so they get to play the Yankees. They got to sweep them up in Toronto probably to make the playoffs. But I don't know. They're a very impressive lineup, but they're inconsistent and they're very right-handed. So, and the Yankees, the Yankees, whatever they won, all of a sudden they're hot again, and they're going to be tough to deal with, and that's going to be quite a one and done playoff game there. And
if it's them, yeah. Blue Jays still only one game behind Boston in the wild card with 6 games left, so could flip, but yeah.
The best wild card game is going to be the Giants and the Cardinals. The Cardinals have won 16 in a row. The Giants have, the Giants might make it now. They might hold on, but whoever wins whoever is the number one wild card in the National League is going to have about 105 wins. So if you're complaining about the Lynx having a one and done, either the Dodgers or the Giants are going to have a one and done after being the 2 best teams in baseball this year. So
yeah, that's very true.
Sports ain't fair.
Sports ain't fair. If there's been a lesson that's been reinforced here, Patrick, that is it. Well, good stuff.
One more thing. What
do you got? What?
These jokes about PJ being on a Zoom call with Southern Cal. Was that just a joke, or was there a rumor out there that they were in contact with him, or what was going on there?
I hadn't heard that, but I think. If there was anything, there's going to be some technical difficulties now after you lost to Bowling Green.
But by the way, the idea that maybe this assistant coach, who's supposed to be a great recruiter, might get the job if they finish strong. They got beat by Oregon State 43-27.
Yeah,
Saturday.
Probably not.
They're going to get a new coach. So
I think they might go high profile. Maybe Urban Meyer's going to get tired of the NFL pretty quick.
They're not. They're not. That psycho. He'll quit after 4 games if he doesn't like it. He can throw the health problem at him and walk away anytime he wants to. So no, he's not going there. Somebody else will, but he's not going there. That ain't happening. Well,
we'll see what we get to talk about next week, Patrick. It's always a mystery.
Better this week. Can't have better options than this week.
No, we can't. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.